Hey, Vanessa.
Well, it's time that we're back for the Kirkpatrick podcast. Do you like my news digs?
I, it's cool. It's great. You look comfortable too.
I am very comfortable and I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you and all of our friends about. Today's episode is all about a crash course on the Kirkpatrick model. And I am primed for this conversation. But before I get there, are you okay if we do another Kirkpatrick update? Yeah.
I'd like to hear one.
Awesome. Well, in conjunction with today's episode, we do have a workshop for all of you that wanted to learn more about the updated model, but not sure if certification is exactly for you. We've got the intro to the Kirkpatrick model workshop on October 24th. It is a live session where you can really learn the overall updates of the model and really deep dive into some of the things that have changed and evolved over the years on the Kirkpatrick model, which will be led by our very own Jordan Rawlinson. You may have heard her on the podcast, and she is very excited to be chatting with you all about all of the updates. It's only half of a day, so make sure that you come on by, and we hope to see you there. As a reminder, we do have access to our Kirkpatrick community. This is your place to really find like-minded individuals who are trying to make evaluation happen. As a reminder, you do not need to be a Kirkpatrick certified human in order to join the community. So please make sure that you check out the community out. We've got lots of great events, lots of great conversation that's happening. We have meetups. Jim was just there a couple of months ago doing a live Q&A. There's a lot of opportunity for you to learn and grow. The only way that we make evaluation part of our culture is by leaning on our community. And that's what the Kirkpatrick community is there to help you do. And finally, we've got 2 more chances in 2024 to get bronze certified. We've got October 29th, but we will be having a session on October 31st to that cohort. So October 29th, we will have a bronze certification as well as December 3rd. So do not let becoming Kirkpatrick certified have to go on next year's vision board. Get it done in 2024. All right. And last but not least, the Kirkpatrick Summit for 2025 is happening September 9th to 11th, and we are looking for speakers. So click the link in the show notes to submit your proposal. Whew, it's a lot going on here.
Vanessa, a quick question. You called it an update. You didn't call it an abbreviation, did you?
An update, yes. I did, you're right. You're right. I did not mean to ever call it. Am I ever abbreviated? Only when I'm talking about TikTok, maybe.
No, I'm just saying that we don't want people to think they're just getting the shortened version of
Oh,
the
no.
traditional Kirkpatrick model.
No, no, no.
Not, it isn't that, is it? It's
No, this
what I
is
was
an
saying.
extension of
Use
the
the word
yeah, this is an extension of our conversation that we've had and the webinar that we did not that long ago. I'll just launch into it. So like this morning I was recording a podcast for one of our affiliates, and a lot of questions were coming up about, the model and how do I address the question that people have. Well, I know the Kirkpatrick model. I learned it in my MBA program, or I learned it in my HR program. I don't need to go through the certification. And that is like, how instructional design and learning and development are like nails on the chalkboard for you? That for me is nails on the chalkboard, because the fact of the matter is the model has been updated, and it concerns me, if I'm honest, that people are not keeping up to date with the research and the changes that are happening, right? So like you and Wendy updated the model, was that 2010?
right,
you
right.
know, and we're in 2024 and people still are, it's beautiful to see because people get excited by it. But, when we're at the conferences, the phone goes up for a picture of the slide whenever the new model comes out. And they realize, the light bulb goes off, that things are, have been updated and they're different. And it more addresses the environment in which we're working in today. And I'm over here every time like, this happened in 2010. We're into 2024, and it's not a knock on them, but it is an update. And we need to understand that like, we don't know the model as well as we thought we did. And we cannot always it's like relying on single source. right? And we're not constantly being a continuous learner.
And you know what else, Vanessa? This doesn't, this update did not come from Kirkpatrick Partners people sitting around in a circle saying, what can we put out there that's news? We got to put something new out there. This comes from what you call community. It comes
Mm-hmm.
from even the conversations that we have, the conversations you have, the things we're hearing about what's working out there. The update is not just coming from it's time for a change, is it? It's
Right.
coming from actual things that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the beauty of the model. Like, I mean, if you pick up the book, there are actually changes that have been implemented just in the last year as we were refreshing the program.
Yeah.
That aren't perfectly aligned. So, can you tell me a little bit more about why we did that? Why we made some of those changes?
Well, frankly, it was because the things were not working well enough as far as people uh, helping to demonstrate their adding to the business, adding to line managers. We weren't seeing progress fast enough, and we didn't want to just say they're not doing it right. We say maybe there's some things that we can do to help with that success. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where the spirit came from and the
Yeah.
need for it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I love that insight. And I love that it's reflective of the model is going to change. Something that, started back in 1954 cannot stay the same in 2024. However, the principles and the underpinnings can
Oh,
remain, right? That
yeah,
legacy can remain, but how we apply it. And there's things that we talk about now, right? Like how do we address motivation? How do we address culture, right? How do we have this conversation? We do actually talk about it. We talk
yeah,
about necessities for success. We talk about culture. We talk about motivation. Maybe sometimes more in our certification programs, like in our close knit and not as publicly. Um, but these things are happening, and this is part of the evolution of the model. Workforces change, humans change. We discover new things about the brain every single day, right?
yeah.
Technology changes, the model has to change. And it's up to us to make sure that we are going to the source to see what's
Yeah.
updated and what's new.
You know,
Like,
I often tell people when I share something with them during a talk or whatever, and they say that's not what they tell us back at our office. They're saying Kirkpatrick is this. I say, well, tell them you heard it from a reliable source. Then they just smile. But this whole crash course thing isn't just an abbreviation, isn't it? Apparently, we've got some time here to say these are the most important new changes.
yeah,
Crash.
absolutely.
Be ready.
Exactly. Take the triangle or the pyramid out of your brain. Let's unbrand it and let's talk about what's new. So, why don't you actually kick us off a little bit? What were some of the most common challenges in learning and evaluation? And how does the updated model, the new world model, address these changes?
Well, I am glad that you said learning and evaluation because they're very different,
Mm, mm-hmm.
aren't they? We intertwine them, but what the first thing I mentioned was learning, and what has changed a lot is that it isn't so much in the schoolhouse, in the classroom, in this, in the, whatever it is. So much of the learning now is a continuing process that crawls across the divide between learning and the business. So that is one thing, and obviously technology is another thing that has changed. And I think what you have led and other your colleagues at KP is how to put that in practical lessons that
Mm-hmm.
people can actually do this rather than just say, "Wow, these things are spinning out of control." No, they're not. They are opportunities that that learning has changed, and we can leverage it
Mm-hmm.
if we understand it.
Yeah.
And then evaluation. I think evaluation is way behind the times.
Oh,
Uh,
tell me more.
oh, learning, blended learning's been around for 20 years, and people are doing a lot of things remotely and all that stuff. COVID helps speed that up. But evaluation, I think, for the most part, is sitting pretty stagnant in the
Mm.
learning world, the learning and development world. They still want to hold out hope that we put enough emphasis on the reaction sheets at level one and the testing, knowledge testing at level two, maybe a 90-day survey at level three. Eventually it will work. It isn't working and it won't work. And I think our industry is stubbornly hanging on to that evaluation model, worn out model, compared to learning, which people seem to be more open minded about.
Mm. I've got a hot question. Do you think that people stick to levels 1 and 2 because they know that unless they've really bombed the training or the program, they'll get good results or good measurement out of it? And they cannot say the same for what they would do if they checked at level 3.
Honestly, I don't think they really think good results will come from their training. I think that they think they'll keep their jobs and
Mm.
that people will like what they're training and people will learn something. But I think deep down they don't really think, because they always say we're the first to be cut because we're not, just like marketing or whatever. I think they're just trying to kind of hold on to their jobs a lot of times, and yet that isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is use an evaluation model that is robust and practical and uses all four levels that anybody can become involved with, not just the people on the other side of the bridge.
I love that. It's about partnerships and about relationships and
And
making
there
it
you
a
go. I knew
holistic
it was only
approach.
a
Hmm.
matter of time before you started talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a big, it's a big deal, a big part of it. We can't go at evaluation alone. And especially when we talk about releasing our people from our classrooms, whatever that looks like, right? The proverbial
Right.
classroom in back into the workforce. We're not there at their desk. We're not there to ensure that they're doing, what it is that you need them to do. So I think um it has to be a partnership, which I think is different than what people traditionally understand when it comes to the model.
And I was working with a group in the Navy along with Jordan. You mentioned Jordan,
Mhm.
and what we found is when they use that community and they're honest with each other, they challenge each other, they work together, instead of being statistics of attrition, where they lose their spirit, they lose their hope. They are ambassadors for the organization, and that is what we're trying to do: is help the people that we're working with and training, not just to get disillusioned and feel that nobody cares about them, but have that care carry over from the training into the workplace, and us helping that where they say, "What do you know that somebody came around and said they saw that I did something well? That really is a good thing." And the more that happens, the more these people are going to be ambassadors and evangelists for the organization, rather than go out and feel disillusioned and nobody will care if they leave or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Speaking of that, I think it leans nicely into a conversation I wanted to have with you about really implementing the updated model. I think when people, when there are some people, and I don't want to say you have to go through our certification programs, but you have to go through our certification programs um, to do the model correctly. There are people that are doing well, that have taken the lessons, read even the book, right? Yours and Wendy's book, and have implemented well. Those people do absolutely exist.
Yeah.
And I share that, or I say that as to lead up to my question is, how have you seen folks accelerate their career because they're implementing the model properly?
I You mentioned contrasting the book from the certification
Mm-hmm.
program that are live programs, and what I think the difference is the interaction with people, and they're hearing other people saying, "This is what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
This is what," and they feel the brightness in their hope and their spirit. And you can't really. We try to write a book in such a way that it has that, but it's pretty hard to do that.
Right.
But I think that the way that the program is taught encourages that and working together, and they leave with a sense of hope. And then they
Mm.
look for that same collaboration in their workplace, and they find it if they know how to look for it, and then take those not risky opportunities. They know who are the people that we can go to on the other side and say, you mind if I sit in on some of the some of the work that's going on here? They say, we've been waiting for you.
Mm.
What took you so long?
Yeah. Wow, that's an excellent point because often we ask ourselves, what's next for us?
Yeah,
I might not want to be in learning forever. I might not want to be doing, whatever it is. And the beauty of the model is that it's not just a learning and development model. It's not just a training evaluation model.
right.
It gets coined a change model. It's a way to evaluate, um, you know, I mean, anything, right? We can apply it in so
Yeah,
many different ways, and it's so flexible in that way that it opens up the possibility in your career to get outside of the learning bubble, right? It's to get outside of the learning field, but take the skills and apply it, your skill set, and apply it somewhere else. So now you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe I could become a change management consultant. Maybe I can go work on the sales team, as their evaluator of, their initiatives, their enablement programs, things like that. Maybe I could go work for, there was a group, you probably remember this, that won an award at the Kirkpatrick Summit, where they try to prevent child abuse and make sure all kids are safe. That's not, we're not, that's not
right.
butts and seats. That's not onboarding. That's not leadership development. It's making sure children are safe. Our armed services that are taking our programs, they're not just taking it to measure their training programs, they're taking it to measure their effectiveness to ensure our soldiers or sailors come back home. It is
Well, you're
so
giving me
much bigger.
goosebumps. Yeah,
It's so much bigger than that. And the fact that we have organizations that don't evaluate properly because they can't get past level 2 is actually, and this is very strong language and I recognize it,
well, yeah,
but it's a risk. It's a danger, right? You
it
could
is to
potentially be
their
putting
future.
someone's life at risk.
And you know what else? You just said something that I just want to comment on. We certainly adhere to Stephen Covey saying we start with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
That is the core of our crash program. Any program that we're teaching here is we want to know ultimately what we're trying to contribute to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the end in mind, mission statement. Now what you just said, I'm going to quote you. You said it opens up possibilities. When it comes to us talking to individuals, we don't want them to predetermine what the end in mind is for their life, for their work.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to go and take some risk, some
Yeah.
personal risk, or at least take some courage and cross over from the learning side at level 1 and 2 into 3 and 4. That will open up possibilities. We don't want them to determine I want to be a CLO, or I want to be a trainer, or I want to be a teacher, whatever. Don't limit yourself, but go over there, start to engage in these meaningful conversations, seek first and understand, and then let things happen, and opportunities, you said it, will present themselves. And
Yeah.
that's why it's a beautiful model of end in mind, but at the same time, open up possibilities.
Yeah. So, one of the, I can't remember who said this to me recently, like last week or something. They said, well, we don't want to do a formal evaluation of our program because we don't want to know what the wrong thing, like what's going wrong. We only want to be able to do it if we know that we can say that we're being successful. So we don't want to go to our executives and say, oh, this program isn't actually doing what, you know, you thought or what
Okay.
we were saying.
Right.
Um, and in conversation, I was like, I definitely can understand that fear, but isn't that the beauty of it? That you can say, again, open up yourself to the possibilities of, okay, this isn't working the way that it was developed. And maybe the answer is it worked at one time, but our demographic has changed, our circumstances have changed, things change and it just does not work anymore. And we need to be thinking outside of the box of how do we still meet our goal, our end goal, our level 4 result, how do we get there through, reimagining what this program or initiative looks like. And that's a very powerful statement because it could really change the trajectory of some people's careers too, because you're now opening yourself up to learning new skills, new techniques, new technologies. And so I think the model can really, really support with that.
And you know what else? But people asked me, I did some talks this past week, and they said, what is in it for you? What are you trying to do with? You're 71 years old. You could just go and hang out. I said, I'm trying to make a difference. I'm trying to help people. That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to help them go and make a difference and make your move.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins says, make your move.
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to do is don't sit back and wait for something to come, but respectfully and boldly for the mission, go out and stir things up and see what happens.
Yeah. Did you know Tony Robbins is my neighbor? I mean, not really.
No,
I just happen to be in South Florida, and I know he has a house here in Palm Beach. I'm not.
really.
KP's not there yet. But yes. My
Now,
dream
here's
is
a
to
question.
one day run into him at like a restaurant or something.
Did you look at him eye to eye or not?
Definitely not. Not even in my tallest shoes. I would ever see him eye to eye. 5'3" over here. Not
Or
not
seven?
6'7".
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about a crash course.
Yeah.
Can a crash course give people any insights and any
Oh,
ideas
well,
regarding the things we're
yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. So I actually ended up changing the name to a launch pad. It's like I don't really like the crash course idea or the name. I don't like the connotations. So if you see it online, it's actually the launch pad. And I think for me, it's that springboard, right? It's not going to give you everything, right? It would be silly for us to say, this is going to be what you need in order to do what you need to do, right? We'd be literally not practicing what we preached, right? We'd be literally, being just like what we're doing in some of our in our organizations, creating training and saying, okay, you've been trained, you should be able to perform. That is not going to happen. But however, what is going to happen is you're going to launch into understanding the new version of
There
the
you go.
model, right?
There
What
you
are
go.
the
Yeah.
principles? Where are the changes? Where do I need to rewire my brain from what I know and have learned to apply the model as it is today, right? And give you just enough to be able to really understand, number one, who we are as an organization, right? And what can you expect when you come through a Kirkpatrick program? And it's all the basis of what you and Wendy built, right? A lot of spirit and a lot of community and a lot of support for those that are going through it and understanding that it's hard and it isn't always pretty at times, right? This is difficult work.
Right.
But it's giving you that opportunity to, number one, get enough education to say, okay, now I can see, to start to make some changes, right? So next time, so if you go to the session on the 24th, on the 25th, you get a training request, maybe you'll say, you know what? Why are we doing this? Right? Like just to make some of those initial changes to help inspire and spark some of that really making the Kirkpatrick model more part of your process and more part of your day. It's, your quote, right? Evaluation isn't an afterthought. Can't be an afterthought. It can't be it can't be optional either. It has to be required, right? And we're in a time right now, people are being laid off left and right. L&D is getting cut. Learning and development, vendors, businesses, we're all seeing a slowdown in spend and learning, right? And yet we're not having the conversation of how to change to prevent this again in the future.
Yeah.
We're not talking about collecting the data. We're not talking about proving our value. We're not talking about speaking the level of the business. We're saying, we got cut. And so I had a very interesting back and forth on my LinkedIn. Very loved the conversation. It was very productive from the Unhinged episode. And I agree wholeheartedly with what people were saying. And I'm just not in the business of letting anybody have full autonomy over my future. And I'm going to be so scrappy and figure out how I'm going to try to do evaluation so that I know, or I can say, I've at least tried. Here are the things that I've done. Here's the data I've collected. Here are the stories I can tell you. Like maybe I can't tell you numbers wise exactly, but here are all the things that I'm hearing based on what I've done, and talk about that. And I think if sometimes we want to start with a formal evaluation process, but maybe all you just need to start with something informal and start to tell the stories and get someone interested in having that conversation in the future. You know what I mean?
And you know what, Vanessa, we started this company in 2008 or 2007 sometime. And for the first, like 7 years, I was on the road all the time, how many 30 different countries. And we didn't have a community at that point because we were too busy just trying to deliver training. But now, instead of a crash course, this is a soft landing into a community that your organization and the people that you have that we didn't have is now ready to say, we're here for you. And so are a lot of people that have come before you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the only way we move forward is through community, by learning from each other. That's there in the future will probably be an asynchronous version of the certification program, but that's not, it'll be good, but the magic is when you get to talk to others and really
Right.
spend time in community. Well, Jim, any parting wisdom of, how someone can apply the updated model, or any tools or tips?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the thought on that is in any kind of course or program or speech that we make about Kirkpatrick, we we pretty much always let them know here are some of the secrets that we and others have learned of how do you actually cross the bridge and who to look for on the other side, whether it's a line manager or a unit commander or a senior leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the secret there is how to kind of test the waters and read people to see if they're open-minded. And that's how
Ooh.
this works. You don't just go crashing on the other side and start saying, we're here to do this, but you look for the rare person sometimes, or sometimes the uncommon person that really is open to say, thanks for coming over here and visiting with us. We haven't seen anybody for a while. And then thank you for listening to what I've been sharing about, the challenges I'm having. Do you think you can help us? But I think that is one suggestion, and we show them how to do it by our example of how do you foray over there and be able to see if someone is open minded or somebody is not. And we don't get all upset about those that aren't. That's just where they are. They don't see training as valuable. But there was going to be that person that says, let's talk. Let's talk more.
Mm-hmm. But you know what they do find valuable?
What?
Performance.
That's right. And contributing to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's level 3.
That's right. That's right. I do love a good level 3 moment. Well, Jim, thank you very much for being here today and for indulging me in my brand new studio couch situation. Hopefully one day you'll come visit me in South Florida and we can do the podcast together from the couch.
I would love that. Both reasons, South Florida and podcast together.
Love it. Friends, the crash course, or the launch pad, the launch pad is October 24th, and we will definitely have additional opportunities in the future, but make sure you get into this one today. It's for a very affordable price point because we want to make sure that you know the newest version of the model, not the one they're teaching in books, other than Jim and Wendy's book, not the one they're teaching in your MBA program. That's probably wrong. I've talk to the professors and they admit it that it's wrong. And even not in some of the L&D books that you read out there. I'm just going to share that one little hot take there. And we will catch you all on the next episode. Let us know how you all are implementing the model and if we'll see you in the crash course. Talk to you soon, friends.